Hey, everybody. It is Peter here from Strong Healthy Women, and welcome to Talking Wellbeing TV, where we share hints, tips, and advice about the foundations of well-being, which are move, eat, live. And we have a special guest this week, and that is the lovely Angela Council. Hey, Angela, how you doing?
I'm going great, Peter, and you?
Oh, yeah, no, I'm going great too. I'm really excited for today. We are talking about the menopause experience.
Yes.
And so it's going to be a super topic. So, ladies, if you are tuning in, I want you to make sure that you post your questions so that Angela can answer them as we're going through. And if you do happen to listen to the replay, then still post your questions up and I'll make sure that Angela gets hold of those questions for you. And we will be putting up a link as well too, so you can get in contact with her. So let's get started. I mean, I think there's this misconception that menopause is such a horrible thing for us all, but it doesn't need to be, does it?
Certainly doesn't. And that's actually what I want to change. I want women to know that it doesn't have to be a struggle. There might be times when things are a little bit uncomfortable, but it doesn't have to be a struggle. But if we go into this stage of life expecting it to be a struggle, it will be. But if we move into this stage of life knowing that this is a time of transformation. So just when we first came into puberty, our bodies were changing, our hormones were changing. The same thing's now happening, but happening in reverse. And, you know, we had a few issues when we were going through puberty. We didn't kind of all jump up and down and say, this is the worst time of my life. And just we got on with it. It was just part of getting older. And so is this. We now also have a whole pile of baggage that we're bringing along with us, like all the stress and the fact we haven't looked after ourselves and we probably haven't been eating the best. So we're bringing all that along with us. But we're really just doing puberty in reverse right now. And once you get through this stage of life, I describe it as like the butterfly or the caterpillar goes into the cocoon, and for the butterfly to actually come out, it needs to have that struggle as it breaks out of the cocoon. If we cut the cocoon open to help the butterfly, it doesn't grow its wings and it dies. So we need to have, this is our resilience, this is our strength. It doesn't need to mean it's going to be the worst time of your life. There'll be some good days, there'll be some bad days, but in general, it should be a relatively easy time of life.
Yeah, I'm glad you mentioned puberty because I can't even remember it. It was like a blink in the eye, you know, it's like, oh, so it's really interesting. Yeah. So let's talk about first what happens with our hormones. So what goes on during menopause? Yeah.
Okay, so we'll start at the basics because unfortunately most women don't understand what's happening to their hormones when they're going through a reproductive cycle anyway. And I'm a naturopath.
Yeah, let's do that.
Having worked with women over the years with their fertility and trying to fall pregnant and had to teach them all about their cycles, and now I get to the end of their cycles and they still don't understand, then I think we need to know this. Now I'm going to try and share my screen. Just give me 2 seconds and I'm going to bring something up. Maybe it's going to work. There it is there. Okay. Go on. It's just, it's all just there. Okay, so can you see something on the screen right now?
Okay.
It says normal hormonal cycle when you're menstruating. So this is what a normal cycle looks like. Unfortunately, most women don't have a cycle that looks like this, but this is what we'd like to see. So day 1 is the first day of your period, and then this red line that goes up, this is estrogen, and basically it peaks around the middle of the cycle. So estrogen is what is pushing the ovary to release an egg. Once the egg is released, estrogen then drops down, and we have a little bit of a bump, and then it kind of comes down again. Now, progesterone, which is this orange line at the bottom, it goes through and it doesn't start to come up until after day 14 because it's actually the egg that releases the progesterone. So we have to ovulate to get our progesterone levels up. And when the egg comes out, it releases progesterone and it supports the egg, which then gets to about day 21, and the eggs are either fertilized or it's not. Now, if it's not fertilized, then progesterone level drops because the egg dies off. If it is fertilized, then we have an embryo, and progesterone continues to go up and up and up for the first 3 months of your pregnancy. So, and then we also do have testosterone, which is the blue line that's running across here. And we have a bit of a bump in the middle because it's what lifts our libido, because at this stage is when we've released an egg, we're most fertile. And so testosterone kind of gives us that extra lift to go out there and mate, because this is what we were designed to do as humans, is that as women, we are the reproductive beings. We're here to populate the world, whether we like it or not. That's what we're really for. Now, but when we get as we get to perimenopause, now perimenopause is the time prior to menopause. And I'll just explain a couple of terms now. So menopause means the cessation of your period. And in the medical world, they say that you have got to menopause a year after your final period, because you can't tell if you're in menopause until afterwards. So they basically say, if you haven't had a period for 12 months, you are now in menopause. Menopause is simply a line in the sand. Before that, you're in perimenopause. After that, you're in postmenopause. So menopause is really, it's a day in time. But we use the word menopause as we talk about the transition as we're moving through perimenopause into post. Now, perimenopause can start up to 10, sometimes more, 10 years before we have our final period. And in this time is when our hormones go a little bit crazy. So if we have a look at this graph that I've shown you here, over the side where everything's pretty flat, that's kind of the depiction of the previous graph that I showed you. But as we're getting into perimenopause, what happens is we don't ovulate as often. So if we don't ovulate, our progesterone levels start to come down, because, as I said before, the egg that releases the progesterone. So it starts to come down. And what happens is, normally when we're cycling, normally we ovulate from a different ovary every month. So 1 month you're ovulating from the right ovary, the next from the left ovary, and just go backwards and forwards. But as you run out of eggs, you might find that you don't have enough eggs left in the right ovary, so you may not be ovulating at all from that ovary, or could be the left, or it could just change. So that starts to come down, and that's the first hormone that drops, is progesterone. Now, ideally, if we were healthy and vital, the adrenal glands actually have the ability to make progesterone as well. And if we're healthy and vital, the adrenal glands take up a little bit of that slack on the progesterone, and the adrenal glands start to produce progesterone so that we don't have quite a sudden drop. Unfortunately, most women, by the time they get to this time of life, are relatively exhausted and almost burnt out, which means their adrenal glands are overworked and it won't produce progesterone because it's got to keep producing stress hormones to keep us alive. So that's the progesterone. The next hormone that drops is testosterone, but we're not going to go into that right now. Then we have estrogen. Now, estrogen can go up and down for years. And this is one of the reasons why getting blood tests to check your estrogen levels is very, very inaccurate, because one day the estrogen can be high, the next day it could be low, and it just goes up and down, just completely up and down all the time. And for many women, it's not actually the drop in estrogen that causes symptoms. Majority of women, even whilst they're still cycling, are in what is known as estrogen dominance. And what that means is we have too much estrogen for the amount of progesterone that we are producing, and the gap becomes bigger. And as progesterone drops down, estrogen can stay the same, or it might start to come down, but it's the gap between the two that causes the problems. And so where women are kind of coming into this stage of life and then doctors put them on HRT with estrogen in it, that can cause more problems because they're actually making a bigger gap between progesterone and estrogen. And the liver plays a role in this as well, because the liver's where hormones are made, broken down, metabolized. So that's all kind of playing a big role. So for that 10 years or so prior to you get to your final period, these hormones are going everywhere, and this is what starts to cause all of the symptoms. And then once you've got through the menopause, then as you're in postmenopause, things start to settle down and your body does adjust to the lower hormones, because it no longer needs the high level of hormones because it's no longer producing eggs. You're not going to be able to fall pregnant. It doesn't need estrogen really high to force an egg out. We don't need to be having progesterone because we don't have the eggs. So we don't actually need that much hormone as we get into our later days. So I just wanted to go through those. I'll just stop sharing. I just wanted to go through that so that women kind of understood what's going on with the hormones. And this is one of the reasons why I'm not overly big on using HRT, because HRT can push hormones up higher than they need to be, particularly if the liver's not working properly and we're not metabolizing properly. It means that this is where the risk for estrogen-based cancers come with HRT, because having too much estrogen, which doesn't have enough progesterone to balance it out, increases your risk of an estrogen-based cancer, particularly if you're genetically prone to those type of cancers. So we need to kind of keep those estrogen levels down and just understand that we don't need the same level of hormone after we've finished cycling as what we did before, because we're not producing eggs. We're no longer, there's no risk of us falling pregnant. We're not, so we don't need that much estrogen. We don't need that much progesterone, but we do need enough to keep us healthy and vital. So we do need some. And that's where the body is able to produce that if we look after it, if we're not overly stressed, if our liver is working properly, if we're eating the right foods, the body will produce some of this hormone for us, just not at the levels that were required when we were still cycling. Does that all make sense?
Yeah, that totally makes sense. And so as these hormones are starting to drop and, plateau and find their level as we've got through menopause, is there, like you're mentioning the liver and how it plays a role and everything like that, is there some way of knowing that our body is functioning properly? Will it show through in energy levels or tiredness or any of those types of things? Or could we be a little bit peaky, more stressed, things like that?
So when we will know when our body feels good. So we will have energy, we'll be able to sleep, we'll be able to do what we want, we won't be holding excess weight. That's when things are going okay. Unfortunately, for most women, they experience hot flushes, joint pain, weight gain, not sleeping, all of these different symptoms, which people call menopause symptoms. They are not menopause symptoms. They are symptoms that are associated with menopause, because menopause isn't a disease. They're also not caused by the change in hormones. They are triggered by the change in hormones. The cause is not looking after yourself,
lifestyle,
not moving properly, having too much stress, and having a belief system that this is going to be a crappy time of life. That is the underlying cause. But we blame it on menopause, then we blame it on the hormones. They're just the trigger, because as our hormones come down, our hormones are very protective. And as our hormones come down, we lose the protection that we've had for the last 30 odd years. And so what we've been doing to our body starts to come out. So if we've been eating the wrong foods, and estrogen's a very strong anti-inflammatory, as the estrogen levels come down, inflammation will start to show. Now, it's not because estrogen has come down. It's because we've got the inflammation because of the foods we've been eating, because we've been doing that to our body, but the hormone has been masking it. Now the hormone goes away and the body's going, it's time for you to look after me. I'm in pain. I've got this going. And it's not because of that shift in hormones. It's because of everything you're doing.
Yeah, totally. We are smack bang in the middle of the 28-day fueled up transformation at the moment at Strong Healthy Women. And one of the things that I heard from most of the ladies coming into this was that they weren't sleeping properly. And now, a week and a bit into it, in that first week, I said, how's your sleep? Everybody's sleeping like a baby, because then yeah, they're fueling their body the right way, and they're exercising, and they're taking care of themselves. So yeah, so it's the very simple things that we can do in our lifestyle that can have the biggest impact on how we react to not just going through menopause, but any part of the life that we are leading right now. So
there's 5 basics that I talk about in my Embrace program. Everything I talk about: eat well, move well, remove the environmental toxins from your life, so get your liver working properly, reduce the stress in your life, and change your mindset and your belief systems around aging. They are the 5 things.
Yeah.
When I look at it, because I actually I wrote a book a few years ago, and it's the same 5 things I was talking about then. Even before I was talking about menopause, I was talking about stressed mums in business. And it's the same 5 things all the time. It doesn't change.
Yes. No. Yeah, I talk about 5 things as well, Angela. So I talk about the move, but move for me breaks into 2 different areas. So your structured exercise, and then a thing called NEAT, which is your non-exercise activity thermogenesis, which is we sit too much these days. So it's about, moving that little bit more, eating healthy, sleeping well, because that just has this massive impact on everyday life, and getting those stress levels under control. So they sort of like all work together.
It's not rocket science. It is not rocket science. And the thing is, we all know this. We all innately know. We know that when we eat better, when we sleep better, when we move better, when we reduce our stress, when we think differently, that we feel better. We know that. Yet there's part of us that doesn't do it. There's part of us that says, oh, yeah, but I want to eat that. And we say, well, your body doesn't want to. And this is the time of life whereby you can't hide behind things anymore. Your body is very, very open in what it's going to tell you. And you either listen to what it's going to say, or you're going to suffer. And yes, you can take medication to get rid of the hot flushes and all of that. But if you stop taking that medication, it all comes back because you haven't fixed the problem. The problem is you're not looking after you. You're not putting yourself first. We women are so good at putting everybody else before us. Now is the time where we can actually go, my kids are grown up, they're more independent. It's time for me now, and it's time for me to look after me. But I think so many women have forgotten how to look after themselves. They've totally forgotten.
Well, Angela, I honestly think that it may be a cultural thing as well too for us, because we've grown up watching our mothers who have always put themselves last. They've always doing something for someone else, and they watched their mothers doing the same thing. So, for me personally, I took it upon myself once I started having grandkids to go, I'm going to influence these grandkids to show them that it's okay to put yourself first. And so if they come to stay with me, my routine doesn't change. They have to come exercise with me. And it doesn't matter how little they are. They'll come up and play on equipment, or they'll bounce, Swiss balls around, or they'll do something. But they know that when they come to Nanny's house, she does these things because she's important to herself. And I think if we can start influencing this younger generation coming through, then I think that we'll be in a much better place, because these young ladies coming through, they're going to say, no, enough's enough. I'm not going to be doing that first. I'm going to take care of myself first before I do that, because I'm important. Yeah.
And I see
love that message.
I've got a 15-year-old daughter, and I see that with her, where it's very self-centered. It's all about me. And while that can sometimes be a bit confronting and annoying, it's actually okay, because it is important that she puts herself first, because more than likely, once she finishes school and goes out into the big wide world, she's going to be told that that's not right. And, even now I hear people say, oh, well, it's selfish to put yourself first. And this is what we've been taught. It's not selfish, because you're not looking after yourself, and this is what I say with all of my clients, if you're not giving yourself 100%, and if you're not feeling 100%, you are actually taking away from those people who love you, because they can't have 100% of you if you don't have 100% to give. And you've got to give it to you first. They say, you've got to fill your own cup first. You actually have to fill your own cup to overflow. And you give from the overflow to others, and the full cup comes to you. You only ever give the overflow to others. But if your cup's not full, you can't give anything to others. And this is what one of the messages I want women to understand, is that we need to look after ourselves first. And I'm just as guilty. There's a number of times when I have put myself behind my children. It's like, you need to learn to put yourself first. And this is the time to do it, because we're kind of halfway there. We're not dying at 55, 60 like our grandmothers and, great grandmothers.
No.
We've got another 40, 50 years to go. We spend more time in this stage of life than we do any other stage of life. So why would you give up on yourself now? This is the time to actually create what you want.
Yeah. Now, when it comes to listening to your body, I know that your body will give you signals. It will send you things. But I think at some point we get to that stage where that body just goes, she's just not listening to me. I'm just not going to keep telling her these things all the time.
No, it'll always tell you, but it just gets louder and louder and louder. It just changes. The voice that keeps coming. Even if you ignore it and you put medication over the top of it, something else will go wrong. So it might have started that you had a sore ankle and you just ignored it and took painkillers and you kept going and kept going. Over time, that might come through as gut stuff, or it might come up as mood disorders. It will always come through. The body never stops speaking to you. It will speak to you till the day that you die. Whether you listen or not, it makes no difference. It continues to speak to you. It just gets louder and louder and louder. And you can try to turn it off as much as you want. This is what chronic is about. This is what, people who are living on medication after medication after medication. It's not a quality life. They might have lots of years in them, but they're not enjoying life. And that's, for me, that's not a life at all. Where I've got to be taking medication and I've got to be going, nothing worse than having to go to see the doctor every week or month or whatever. I mean, I haven't seen a doctor. Well, I had a hip operation, but other than that, I haven't seen a doctor since I had my children. So it's like,
no. And the thing is that you do know your body, and it will send you those signals. So, and I know that in my 40s, I knew that I wasn't feeling right. So I was feeling tired. Not excessively tired, but I just didn't feel right. And I did go to the doctors, and they've just gone, oh, you're just getting a bit older. And it's like, no. Yeah, part of being a woman, all that type of stuff. And, I was really, really insistent on this because it was just always there, and it was nagging me. Until in the end, I said, I had a pap smear, and it was all clear. And then I said, look, I read about this thing where they actually use the human eye and all of these other fancy bits and pieces to actually do a pap smear. Can we do, it's called something different. So can we do that? And he's gone, yeah, let's do that. And Angela, if I had not been insistent, I would have had cervical cancer.
Yeah.
So it was caught in the nick of time. And that was an absolute wake-up call for me, because it was like my body was telling me something. I need to start paying attention more. I ended up having an operation, etc., etc. I went into menopause, and so it was at that point I went, life's going to change. I'm changing it. And I did. I completely changed everything. I worked in the corporate world. I totally started doing all my study and researching about women's health and well-being. And that's why I'm doing what I'm doing now, because it's so important that we listen to our body.
Totally.
It will tell us what's going on.
Yep. And we need to take control. And I think our generation is probably the worst, has given control of our health and our bodies over to a medical profession, which in 9 times out of 10 dismisses what's going on with women. It wasn't until I think it's the last 10 years that they've even included women in medical trials, even for women's conditions. They did a whole medical trial on heart disease in women, and they used men in that trial. There was not one woman in that trial, and it was about heart disease in women. And because they didn't like the fact that we had cycles, and when they run their medical trials, they can't basically standardize everything because everybody's at a different stage of their cycles. They all have different cycles. Yes. So they said, well, women's bodies are just like men's bodies. Women's bodies are not just like men's bodies. We have different hormones. They work differently. And we have been dismissed for so many years when women like you who turn up and say, something doesn't feel right. And they just go, oh, she's another one of those crazy women. But women are very connected to their intuition. And if a woman says something's not right, we need to listen because she's listening to her body. And if a doctor's not going to listen to her body, you need to go find a doctor that will. And a doctor that wants to work with you rather than stand there and say, just get on with it. It's a woman, suck it up. There's nothing you can do about it. And that's what we get told. So many women get dismissed. Oh, it's menopause. Here, take a pill. You'll never get better. Just take a pill. And the
other thing is it's just back to the hormone imbalances as well too, and what we eat has such a big impact on that. I know that for me, when I was going through menopause, what would happen is if I ate certain foods, that's when I was waking up more of a nighttime, and I had those night sweats and everything like that. So it was all around the food that I was eating, food or drink, whatever it happened to be. Yeah. And so it comes back down to, here's my body. It's telling me what's going on. I need to listen, because if I'm not listening to it, then what I'm going to be doing is going, oh, this menopause stuff is so bad. Right. I need to go and get a pill. I need to go and get a pill to help myself with that. But the reality is, if I change my lifestyle slightly, then I will get through this in a much better way, in a much healthier way, and a much more natural way as well too.
Correct. And it's like, and unfortunately, the foods we kind of have to look at and the drinks we have to look at are the things that we tend to like. So alcohol is one, and if the women over the age of 45 are the highest consumers of wine in this country. And it's almost a given, a ritual at the end of the day. I've had a hard day. I'm going to have a glass of wine. I have been that woman in the past as well. But I spent so much time in pain. So my biggest symptom when it came to menopause was joint pain. So overall body pain. And I didn't drink a lot. I mean, I would have a glass of wine on a Saturday night with dinner, and I'd do wine spritzers. So it was half wine, half mineral water anyway. It's kind of all I was drinking. But it got to a stage whereby I was so sick of being in pain. I was sick of not sleeping because of the pain. And I just went, actually, I'm just going to stop. 100% stopped alcohol. And within 2 weeks, my entire pain went, even though I still had severe osteoarthritis in my hip, and I was bone on bone, but I had no pain with it. And it's nearly 2 years now since I've had any alcohol. I don't have hot flushes. I've lost weight. I have no pain. And it was just a small amount of alcohol that for me that was keeping me inflamed, because the estrogen had come down, the protection had gone. That was enough to keep my body inflamed. And that's what kept me in constant pain. And sometimes you have to decide, do you want the drink or do you want the symptom? Now, if you want the symptom, that's okay. Keep drinking. But also know that the symptoms will probably get worse. But, if it's an odd occasion that you're going to go out and you're having you're out to dinner with people and you have a couple of glasses of wine, know that more than likely you're going to wake up between 1 a.m. and 3 a.m. with night sweats. If you're okay, fine. Have those wine, but just know that that's what's going to happen, because that's what happens. 1 and 3 is liver time. And if you've got alcohol in your body and the liver's got to process all that, it's actually going to wake you up, and more than likely it will heat you up and put you into a night sweat. But you just knowing that that's the consequence of your choice, that's okay. And you might say, well, okay, I'm only going to do that when I go out with friends. I'm not going to drink any other time. I'll live with that.
Yeah, totally. I mean, it's a whole other topic, and I think it's a good topic for Wednesday when we come back to cycle back through talking about food and inflammation and all of those things. So this has been really, really good, because we're starting this conversation off with understanding our hormones a little bit more, and how, you know, listening to our body is so important. And then, we're just going to follow this all the way through. It's going to be amazing. Now, Angela, you started your 7-day reset, hormone reset today, didn't you?
It started today. If anyone wants to join, they still can. So the link for that is bit.ly/7, so the number 7, and then day_hormone_reset. Actually,
so bit.ly.
I'll put it in chat for you.
Okay, throw it in the chat. That way, anybody who's interested can click on that link and they can come in, because you've only just started it. So good opportunity. They'll be able to, they'll be able to go back and listen to everything.
Chat, so you'll probably have to post it in public chat. So so only you can see that at the moment, because I don't think I can put it. I can't put it into the public chat. So you can link that across.
I can definitely do that for you. Well, this has been lovely, Angela. Okay, that'll be awesome. And so we shall be back again on Wednesday at 3:30 p.m. to keep talking about this menopause experience. And remember, if you've got questions, post them up, and Angela will be able to answer them. And we can probably come to those questions Wednesday as well too, and just do a bit of a recap on those. So thanks for joining me today, Angela. Awesome.
Yeah. Bye.
See you, ladies. Bye, everybody.